going on, guys? Jedi Dogma here again. Today we're going to be looking at a different movie from the Shudder exclusive and original series. Now this is something that I'm trying to kind of launch a new playlist of videos mainly centered around Shudder originals, simply because I'm really curious about what other people think about these movies, and I also kind of want to get through these movies myself and see what they really have to offer. For those of you who don't know, Shudder is it's an alternative streaming site for, horror movies. Specifically, it's kind of trying to be the Netflix for horror movies. If you haven't heard of it, I would definitely check it out. They do have free trials and things like that available. Now, this is not a promotion or anything, but this is a service that I use, so in case anyone else is interested in that, I'm just going to go ahead and leave all that information below. I truly think Shudder is a very unique service. But that's kind of besides the point. Today I want to talk about Psycho Goreman. PG: Psycho Goreman. So this one was very interesting, to say the least. It has a lot of unique personality and flavor. I think that the people, when they were making this movie, they said, look, this has to be very, very unique. This has to come off as very much us. It was very creative in a lot of its use of practical effects. I think that's something that is so cool, because a lot of movies these days just don't use practical effects for obvious reasons. It makes it more affordable. It's probably easier to work in. But either way, you gotta love it. It's very enjoyable when you do see it in the movies. So there was a comment left below on the site that said, this is the Power Rangers for adults. And I actually kind of agree with that. It started off really cheesy. There's a lot of really cheesy acting. If you're not really up for if you can't get through all the campy parts where they're just delivering ham-fisted, like big turkey ham lines, these children, I want to say, are acting bad intentionally. No disrespect to those kids, I'm sure they did their best, but I think the direction here, the director wanted them to be like really, really hammy, really cheesy, and really just in your face, kind of not caring about how it comes off or just how cringy it kind of feels. I mean, that was just me personally. I like when the acting is more realistic and they take a different approach to it, or the more method acting approach, the more natural, humanistic drama type of acting. But this is not a drama, it's a horror comedy. So in Psycho Goreman, there is this main character, which is the two little kids, and also the alien from outer space, who's also known as PG, or Psycho Goreman, or as he's referred to by some of his enemies, is the Archduke of Nightmares. Very scary, big title. So there's a lot to unveil in this movie. There are certain moments that are actually kind of funny. Like they do hit you with a few lines that actually give you a nice chuckle. But for the most part, you're not going to be laughing in hilarity per se throughout the whole movie. There's just a lot of weird scenes and fun little campy scenes where you're kind of just standing there like trying to figure out what's going on in the scene. But it is well shot. I like the lighting. Very basic, but it works well. The shots themselves were very creative. A lot of the special effects really goes into this movie. I mean, this is a movie that I think has some of the best practical special effects that I've seen in a long time. Practical effects, you think immediately George Lucas and all the Star Wars films. You think of the Power Rangers as well, the Mighty Morphin Rangers, and how they had all those costumes and get-ups. You think of Jurassic Park. There's a lot of movies that have used practical effects to a great effective degree. So this one is a movie that really shines with its effects. There's a lot of gory stuff. Surprisingly enough, I mean, they have these kid actors in these scenes that are so horrific to witness. I mean, I feel like that might traumatize certain child actors, or maybe not, but either way, it did seem like they did not really pull any punches, which I really appreciated, because I absolutely love the gore.
This is but a small example of what I am capable of. His eternal pain will take his mind beyond the furthest reaches of madness.
I wanted to see that stuff. That was a huge reward in having to sit through a lot of the more slower paced scenes or sections of the movie. It kind of like keeps a very consistent pace. I don't think it really lagged in any specific part. It was very creative, I will say, and all of the whimsical banter, the way the effects are put together. There's the bloody TV, there's heads being chopped off, there's all kinds of other cool stuff that is just delightful to watch unfold. You know what I mean? And that's just a special charm that only practical effects can bring out in a movie. So of course you have the Power Ranger element. I think they did have a very good point. The person who commented on the site that said, it's Power Rangers for adults. It is very much following the same kind of campy formula where there's good versus evil, two big powers going against each other, and then the kids are having fight scenes. The fight scenes are very much like Power Ranger fight scenes. There's a scene where, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene where you kind of get a very good sense of the choreography. Everything is very deliberate. It's very much a nostalgic kind of hit movie. And you know what? I really liked it. I think that not enough movies really try to be unique and personal anymore, because they just try to copy the formula of the last, sequel or whatever, the original. And a lot of them don't really try to emulate something original and new. And I think this is a movie that does that. It's a movie that takes all the virtual effects, takes all the whimsical banner, the Power Ranger, aspect to it, and it creates something that you can actually watch and just kind of sit back to yourself and laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. My favorite scene was probably the montage scene, which I don't want to get into many details with that, but it is really just goes from weird, from normal to weird to bizarre to unbelievably ridiculous, like ludicrous mode. Okay, so I would actually recommend this to a lot of people who don't really take themselves as seriously. So if you don't really mind a lot of the campy parts, you're definitely going to see a lot of reward from the visual effects, the effects created on camera. I mean, they're okay. The video editing effects are not, I don't think they're as good as the practical effects, to be honest, but they still, I mean, they're decent enough to hold the choreographed scene together. Whatever is happening in the scene, it just kind of flows. It's not too jarring, I don't think. But of course, these movies are not hugely funded like Sony Pictures or the Marvel Studios films. You're talking about smaller studios that have less of a budget, so it's understandable. But all that being said, they still managed to bring home a lot of really cool practical effects. I thought it was absolutely delightful. Just for that aspect alone, I would recommend it to a lot of people. If you find yourself not liking very happy-go-lucky, very ham-fisted, cheesy lines and bad acting, I would not recommend this to you, because you probably won't be able to get through most of the movie, because it's most of the movie is like a parody of itself. It's a parody of these cheesy American, I guess, Power Ranger TV shows, in the way that they're so full of energy, and the acting is just kind of like, yeah, you got to do this thing with the thing, Greg. It's kind of very sequenced and timed well. It doesn't try to be, what is the word, humanistic. It tries to be very ridiculous, and I think that's something you just have to accept watching the movie and going forward. But that being said, there is still a lot of cool stuff in the movie that I think is worth watching. I mean, I don't think you should ignore it just for the fact that it's very, very campy and cheesy. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff going on that was creative.